It is Sunday, April 4th, and it's getting pretty late with Jake Landau. Folks, this is officially our 50th episode of the show. To prepare for this special episode, we're doing nothing special. It's just a normal episode like any other. But I figured I'd acknowledge that we've gotten to 50 somehow. That seems pretty fun and exciting. And for our 50th episode, another returning guest. You know him well. His name is Matt Kercher. He's a Green Party member in BC and a political commentator, and it is very exciting to have him back on to shoot the shit. Matt, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, Jake. I didn't know this was the 50th episode. That's kind of cool.
Well, I didn't remember it was the 50th until I checked 10 minutes before recording, and I'm like, well, I better at least say something.
Hmm.
Not
Yeah,
gonna
no,
do anything, but we'll say something.
yeah, no, that's cool.
If,
Congratulations
thing.
for having 50 episodes. That's a big thing.
If we get to 100, we'll do a real bash.
You have to bring a bunch of like returning guests and do like a round table or
I
something
know.
like that.
It's like, so why do all of you keep talking to me? like, but there's a lot to talk about today. I know, Matt, BC politics has been pretty interesting lately. But before we get into that, I thought we'd talk a little bit nationally first. You're not a member of the NDP, but the NDP have just picked a new leader, Avi Lewis, who is probably had the best environmental policy out of the five candidates for the NDP leadership. Provincial NDP leaders are mad at him for having good environmental policy. What's your take on this?
I think the NDP went with the right way. They made the right choice with Avi Lewis. I mean, I myself am not an MDP member. I didn't vote in the leadership race. I did take or keep an eye on it anyways. Yeah, I just think Lewis kind of sets the party aside from the Liberals. They are now an actual social democratic option with some big ideas that the NDP hasn't really had in the last decade. There's still a lot of work to be done, obviously. It's going to take time. It's going to take some time for us to see that kind of reverberate back
Oh,
through
of
the
course.
support in the NDP. But no, I think they made the right decision. It was a pretty consensus pick. I was even listening a little bit to Eric Grenier today, and he was talking about how he got some leaked data on the second choice votes. And even on those second choice votes, Avi Lewis was still pretty much the kind of consensus pick.
So even if he
Um,
hadn't won on the first ballot, which he did pretty handily, he probably still would have been good on a second ballot.
he would have won on the second ballot. Like if he had gotten 47% on the first ballot, he would have won on that second ballot with those second choice votes. But I do think it kind of also goes to the little bit of the overblownness of the disunity within the NDP. The federal NDP is very
Oh
unified
yeah,
behind this candidate.
members seem fairly confident in Avi. Like it,
Yeah.
and there not a bit of audacity in people like Naheed Nenshi and Carla Beck? Like Carla Beck telling him, "You need to completely reverse your environmental
Mhm.
stances before I'll even meet with you," and I'm
Yeah.
like. But those are the stances that just got Avi elected as federal leader. You can't tell him to betray the entire federal NDP membership because it's not convenient for your small slice of the NDP membership.
Yeah. Well, and we heard throughout the race too that Avi was going to be the divisive candidate. Avi was going to cause division. And now the second he wins leadership, you have all the
He
same people
wasn't
who are saying
even
Avi was
done
so
giving
divisive.
his like acceptance speech before pre-prepared slander pieces were
Yeah.
coming out like from supposed other NDPers. I mean, what's really
Yeah.
funny is former Alberta NDP minister Shannon Phillips, who made a big thing that in 2025 she federally voted for the Carney Liberals. So, like, I don't know what room she has to lecture the federal NDP on anything. Mind you,
No,
like, I voted for the federal Liberals in 2025, and that may very well be the vote I regret most in my entire life. Like, I should not have voted for the Liberals under Carney. It was a mistake. I knew he would be a step to the right of Trudeau. I did not expect just how far right he would go, but I was warned, and I did not heed
yeah.
those warnings.
Yeah. No, and it's people marginally within the party, right? Saying that well, you need to moderate the party or you need to change these positions to be electable here. I guess my question would be is when was the last time the Alberta NDP was electable? When was the last time the Saskatchewan NDP was
Yeah,
electable?
the
Like
Alberta
they're
NDP were only able to win an election in recent memory because there were two right-wing parties fighting against each other, and that simply will not happen again. I know there's this progressive Tory party that's been founded. I highly doubt they will have much electoral success. I think conservatives are almost entirely going to continue voting for the UCP. It's so like it's hard for the Alberta NDP to keep telling the federal NDP they have to compromise on environmental policy for the sake of a provincial party incapable of winning. It's not fair.
No.
Like there are like triple the votes that can be won in Quebec with pro-environmental policy than the votes that can be won in Alberta with anti-environmental policy. And it should
Well,
just be called that, shouldn't it? Anti-environmental policy.
Well, and just look at the areas where the NDP is successful. Like look at Wab Kinew and look at his response to Avi Lewis becoming leader. Wab Kinew and Avi Lewis are not ideologically aligned in a lot of ways.
No,
right?
it's like
there are some significant differences there.
Yeah.
But Wab is a savvy enough politician and premier to come out and back his federal leader when there's nothing for him to disagree with him with yet even.
Right.
Like we can talk about policies and stuff, but there is no material reason to be getting upset at the federal NDP currently if you're a provincial member.
And listen, like I need not repeat my criticisms of Wab Kinew. I think everyone's pretty familiar with my criticisms of his past conduct and personal relationships. Nonetheless, like he politically is adopting the right strategy. Like he knows that when someone just won on the first ballot with a straight majority of votes, that coming out the great gate blasting would be stupid, because there's clearly a lot of NDPers who do like Avi Lewis and who will, and it really blew up in Carla, Beck, and Naheed Nenshi's faces like 2 days later when his dad died, and they had to pretend they hadn't just viciously went in on his son.
Yeah, condolences to the Lewis family, by the way. I'm not certain they'll be listening, but
No, but like,
if they are condolences. And it's
like Carla Beck's like, I'm never gonna meet with Avi Lewis, and then she's like, I will meet with him to express my condolence. I'm like, I knew it would blow up in their face, those statements. I just didn't expect it to be that quickly and in this particular way of looking stupid.
And I think, and those statements weren't well received either. Like before his dad passed, like they were not well received by a lot of membership within their own provinces. I think there's a lot of federal membership that is tired of being dragged along by the provinces and somewhat being dragged down by one or two provinces in particular.
The tail cannot be wagging the dog. Like, yes, provinces have a lot of important responsibilities, but we are first and foremost Canadian. Our goals have to be for the country as a whole and for Canadians to have a roughly equal standard of living, regardless of which province or territory they live in. We can't have like 13 different kinds of Canadian because each subnational jurisdiction has varying standards of human quality of life.
Yeah. No, the feds at this point, like, people in the federal party are just done with the Alberta NDP. And I'm sure there's people in the Alberta NDP that feel like they're done with the federal party as well. Like,
at which point I've been just telling them, like, then leave. Disaffiliate. If you're like, they've already like made it so that Alberta NDP membership is separate now. So like, if you hate things so much, then leave. But like, it's not, you can't keep on sharing resources with the federal party when it's convenient to you, and then trashing them whenever they do anything that, like, it's not fair. Like you cannot how would you feel if like you're an NDP voter, like you just voted in a leadership, and all the while Alberta is threatening you and saying you have to vote the way we want you to, or we're going to break this party in half. It's not a functional way to cooperate towards political goals. And if they don't share political goals, leave.
Yeah. And they know they're doing that too, by the way. Like, Naheed Nenshi knows that he's using the federal brand to his benefit, because the day after he put out that statement, he was asked by a reporter, well, the next logical question, are you going to change the name? Are you going to disaffiliate?
And his
answer was basically along the lines of, I think that Albertan voters are smart enough to know the difference between the federal and the
Not
provincial
just that,
NDP.
like he's
But
like
we're not gonna change
he
the name.
said if members of our party want to, we will change the name, but it's also a beneficial brand. So I'm like, oh, okay, so you
Yeah,
don't want to be the BC United. You know the NDP brand has benefits for you, but you don't want to contribute to building up the brand. You just want to
yeah,
parasitically leech off of it.
yeah. So they want to have it both ways, and
He's the
I think
Tom
that's
Mulcair
mainly
of Alberta.
and I think that's mainly the leadership that's like that, right? Like I think if you asked a lot of Alberta NDP membership and you ask a lot of federal NDP membership, the kind of just cut the cord and split the parties is probably the answer that a lot of people are going to come to. It's just that those people in Alberta that run the party know that that will be detrimental to them, and they don't want that to come out in the open because then it just disproves everything they've been talking about for the last
But
decade about needing
meanwhile,
the
it would
federal
be
party to come meet them.
beneficial to other NDP provincial parties. Like for the BCNDP, it would be very beneficial to not have another NDP next door cramming pipelines down the throat that you didn't even want to do. Like, mind you, there are some pipelines the BCNDP want to
Yeah,
do, but usually just natural gas, not oil. Oil
yeah.
pipelines are worse. Technically true, but also they're both bad. Like,
Yeah, and we can get into the BCNDP here as well because
about a good transition
they've been
point.
doing some things. Yeah, they've been doing some things recently.
Well, for
And
one,
I'm definitely
they've
not going to
said
play up like the BCNDPs.
no. I mean, for one, recently the BCNDP are now taking the stance that reconciliation didn't actually mean we would change anything about the way Canada operates as a society, and we're going to revoke the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Yeah.
For
So the
context, yeah.
BCNDP,
Sorry, but one more, bit more. For context, for most Canadians, unlike most other provinces and territories, there are no treaties for the vast majority of land in BC. There was no legal agreement made that allows it to be used by Canada and Canadians, like in, say, Ontario, where there are treaties covering Toronto. In Vancouver, there's no treaty. They just rolled in and took the land. And
yeah, it's
they could. The
BC's.
solution is modern treaties, but they're not willing to do so. They're moving very slowly because they don't want to negotiate fair terms.
Yeah, no, BC is it's a very unique political situation in that sense, and the BC NDP has decided that they've tried reconciliation, they've looked at it, and they've decided, wow, this is kind of hard. We don't want to do this, and they're just not doing it anymore. Like that is the decision they've come to.
We didn't
They've
think land
completely,
acknowledgments would mean acknowledging the reality of the land.
yeah. It's like this. The goal of DRIPA was was to align BC law with the rights of Indigenous people.
As like
Currently in
declared
BC, they
under
don't have a whole lot
international
of
law.
rights.
Like,
Huh? Yeah.
and like this is the thing. It's like they've sort of just been going for decades and decades, essentially taunting Indigenous people in BC, saying we can force ourselves on you and you can't stop us. And
Yeah.
finally, when there's a legal remedy that Indigenous people are actually able to take, the provincial government works overtime to say no, we're going to colonize even harder. Like,
Yeah.
the colonial era clearly is not over. It perpetuates itself today.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is we're not even moving, like DRIPA doesn't even move us to a, say, like moral place, a more sophisticated place of law where we understand the nuances and the conditions. All that DRIPA does is move us from being not in line with colonial law to being in line with like British colonial law.
Right, like
We
that's
can't
the
even
other
do
thing.
that.
It's like it's not even a very high standard. It doesn't
No.
upend the colonial system. It's just saying that you need to make at least an on-paper agreement with the places you're colonizing for how to divvy up resources, which,
Yeah.
mind you, is still an uneven arrangement, but it just shows the audacity in BC of not even bothering with the legal pretense.
Yeah. And this is in a long line of the BC NDP of just completely bending the knee to conservative fearmongering on a lot of issues, basically ever since David Eby took control of that party. I'm no fan of John Horgan. I'm not going to give John Horgan any props, but at least John Horgan like stood on his principles a bit, it seemed like.
And what's
David Eby has
remarkable
no
is
principle.
DRIPA was initially passed unanimously by
Yeah.
the legislature in BC. So it's remarkable that they've put all the blame on the NDP when it was an all-party effort. There was literally nobody who did not participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see that in the BC Conservative race now too, with anti-DRIPA candidates in that race who were BC Liberals who are now catching flack because they're secret Liberals because they voted for DRIPA or something. And it's like this whole focus on DRIPA, like you said, it's not even this like fantastical idea. It just brings us into the same laws that the rest of Canada has. Barring that, we have worse Indigenous laws than the rest of Canada, a country that has been credibly accused of doing Indigenous genocide.
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
No, it's pathetic. I mean, it's not just pathetic for elected officials, it's pathetic for the electorate and the voter as well, because let us be fully honest, they are doing this to appeal to what seems like a very large segment of the electorate who are more than fine with continuing to fuck over Indigenous people well into the future. No, like, they will not sacrifice a single solitary dime to rectify any injustices. And they just think, well, a white person did it in the past. Even though I benefit from my grandpa's dispossession of these people, it's not my problem. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, my grandparents didn't even participate in any of this bullshit. Like, we came to Canada as refugees. We still understand we have a responsibility for it as citizens to address the fundamental colonial inequalities that are perpetuated upon Indigenous people, because even as refugees, we know we can either participate in the colonial system or oppose it. And it's not that hard, and I don't know what to say to other people that it's not this fucking obvious to them.
And I think we're coming to a boiling point here in BC with this issue, because the BCNDP have decided they're not moving forward with the amendments to it. Instead, they just want to pause entire sections of the bill for 3 years.
And how do you pause rights? Like,
so they're going to table some amendments to the bill that will pause certain sections of the bill for 3 years, and they're going to make this a confidence vote.
Fun.
So we're about to have a confidence vote in BC on DRIPA, and I think this is a
and is this essentially how they're forcing NDP members who support DRIPA to vote with them? Because they can't vote against the government violating these rights without triggering an election, which would presumably get them kicked out of caucus.
Exactly. So I think this is going to be really telling for a lot of MLAs in that BCNDP caucus. This should be a red line for you.
But it also creates a position for the Conservatives because they want to get rid of DRIPA, so they would vote yes. But because it's a confidence vote and they want to bring down the government, they would then want to vote no. So it's like I understand and in a way respect the deviousness of these political calculations, if only not for the fact that it's morally abominable and I hate them.
Yeah. And then you also have the BC Greens who are going to have an impact on this vote. From what I've seen, they're basically following the Indigenous leaders in the province. If the Indigenous leaders don't want this passed, they will not pass it, regardless of the fact that it's a confidence vote. And then, of course, you have the two independents and Dallas Brody. So, and what did they do?
And didn't they leave the BC Conservatives for being too racist to Indigenous people?
Yeah, exactly. So there is a credible possibility here where you see the Greens and the Conservatives vote against this in unison, and you see one BC vote with the provincial BCNDP to pass pauses to DRIPA legislation. Like, that is a possible outcome that we could see.
Well, it'd be funny is if the Conservatives say they're not going to vote in favor because it's not cruel enough.
Like, that's basically what they're doing. That's basically what they've said. They're saying the Conservatives have basically said that they won't support these amendments because they want to just repeal the whole bill.
Yeah, well, it's remarkable in the worst way. I was naive, but there was a few years where I did actually think, maybe we cared about reconciliation, at least a little bit. Maybe there are like some structural changes we'll be able to make to our society that, it won't fix everything, but maybe people actually do care for once in our lives. Egg on my face.
And I think BC has this rap of this very progressive place in this country too, like more so, like probably behind Quebec is probably like considered the most kind of progressive province in the country, right? And so it should be known to people that no, we have
It's
our
like thinking
own
a
far right.
libertarian is progressive because they smoke pot.
Yeah, we have our own far right shit fuckery here. Like it's it's when you get to the coast, yeah, there is a generally kind of lefty feel to it, but this is a big province. There's a lot of
And
people
that
in it.
leftyism still comes with a bunch of asterisks. Like they're
Yeah, it's more of a liberal leftyism.
yeah, it's not like white leftists don't still a lot of the time have a bunch of internalized racism.
Yeah,
They don't even think they need to unpack
yeah,
because like I mean you and I can probably speak to this pretty well because we have unpacked this. We
yeah,
understand we were raised as white men in this kind of society. We're not inherently bad people for that, but we got to say hey, we should look back on some of the things we were raised with as kids and wonder, do we want to pass this down to our own kids? Like no one's getting attacked. No one's getting run over a barrel here. We're just saying, what if we reflect on our actions
yeah.
as human beings and how we affect other people?
Yeah, I grew up in a tiny little logging town of about 2,000 people. There wasn't a whole lot of diversity where I grew up. I had to unlearn a lot of bad behaviors and bad biases that I had growing up.
I grew up
Takes work,
I
takes
grew up
time.
in a city, but I grew up like until grade 8 going to a private Jewish school where pretty much every kid was white. And like no one we didn't really think of it as like a white person school. We thought of it as a
Mhm.
Jewish school, and there are Jews who are not white. So, but I made a very intentional choice to go to public school in grade 9 for high school because even as a white like 13-year-old, I knew there was something I was missing here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and that really says it, doesn't it? Like when a white teenager can tell there are gaps in their, education regarding
yeah.
diversity, there is a big problem.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of education in diversity until I went away to oncology camp.
Yeah.
When I went away to like a kids camp in Vancouver. Um, that's where I got my diversity was there. That's where I learned of new cultures and new peoples and made different friends from all over. Was over there. It can be tough in a small community and stuff like that. But
I
it doesn't
mean,
mean
yeah,
that it's not the onus isn't on you to
right.
learn. The
And
onus is
like
still on you
in
to learn.
my community, like we grew up with the term Jewish American princess being like the Jewish equivalent of like calling someone a wasp. Like, but then I go to public school and I'm in a hall surrounded by a bunch of Japanese children, and I say the abbreviated version of that, referring, of course, to
Oh,
Jews, and they politely explain to me that the term JAP means something very, very
yeah,
different.
yeah,
Again, and everyone got like no one was once it was explained, everyone was okay. But I also understood. Okay, don't say it again.
yeah,
Like that was the thing. People are okay explaining something to you once as long as you
yeah,
take the explanation to heart.
yeah.
But like that's
Most
part
people,
yeah, but that's part of why it was important to like
yeah.
raise for me to find a more diverse environment to grow up in. That's why I want, when I have kids, I want them to have that from the get-go so they
Yeah.
don't have that kind of embarrassing moment when they're a teenager.
Yeah, and like my kid's gonna go to like Anthony, he's gonna go to public school. I'm never gonna put him in private school or something like that. I want him to experience those diversity of opinions, and I think it's important just for socialization as well.
Exactly. Like,
Um,
you don't want to. I grew up, when I was in private school, I grew up as the poorest kid in the school. And it gave me a little bit of a warped perspective because we were very much not poor. We had a
yeah,
nice house, like, we had all the latest games and we went on vacations and stuff. But, like, I had a warped perspective as a kid because I grew up with around all these crazily rich people who had, like, multiple homes. And then, finally I go to public school and I'm like, oh damn, we have a horrible, unfair, unequal society. Like,
yeah.
the point of this general side tangent we've gone on here is just, like Canadians as a whole, regardless of our background, we should be more introspective and we should teach people to, reflect more on the way we treat other people. And it's a
Not
shame
only,
this is apparently not electorally popular in BC.
yeah. Well, not only more open to introspection, but just more open in general, open to new ideas, open to hearing a different perspective. Like obviously when it comes to politics, you and me, when we're sitting here talking, our perspectives are pretty set in stone. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still listen to a new perspective or challenge your own perspectives from time to time.
And to be fair, my political views have changed over the
Yeah,
years. It doesn't
so have
happen
mine.
every day, but like when I hear a genuinely persuasive argument, it happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this might be for me particularly because I'm autistic. So like, and this is apparently just a thing that we do more than neurotypical people. We're like, oh, you made a good point. I'll change my views. Like, I guess I'm not complaining. I don't know if this is one of the parts of it that's a disability. This might be more of a benefit.
Well, like you and me have talked, like I think this is about the fourth time or so I've been on your podcast now.
I've lost
And
count. You're a regular.
yeah,
We know your order.
and when I first came on, I remember we had a conversation about military spending, and I was very, very, very against hitting any additional military spending. I was wrong. The world changes. We should have a little additional military spending. I don't think it should be as high as what the Carney government is planning.
And it shouldn't be
I think
going
it
to
could be
American
better.
companies, and it shouldn't be
Yeah,
going to benefit NATO that seems to mainly be under U.S. Control, at
yeah,
least as far as Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, seems to think. But
yeah,
like, we do need some manner of autonomy for ourselves because
yeah.
unfortunately, there are neutral nations and there are pacifist nations. Neutral nations continue to exist. Pacifist nations unfortunately get annexed.
Yeah. And I think like I said, I'm not against military spending anymore. It just has to be the right kind of spending.
Exactly. It has to be the right
I would be in
modality.
favor of of Canada developing a nuclear program
Yeah,
at this point.
because that would actually be a fairly efficient means of defense. Like, compared to, like, ground troops, I don't even think it makes sense for America to throw money into ground troops.
No.
But, like, especially because they don't really try and hold territory. Like, if
No,
your
if we're
only
going to be
goal is to deter through straight violence, then air power and, naval launching platforms are essentially really all you need.
yeah, like if we're investing in a new modern military, there's two things that we should be in well, sorry, three things we should be investing in. We should be investing in a nuclear program, we should be investing in drone capabilities, and we should be investing in a bit of a bit of a guerrilla style warfare.
Yeah.
Because when we look at who's possibly going to be invading us, it would be the only two options are really Russia and the US. Um, you and me have had discussions. I don't believe Russia is even a legitimate threat to Canada at this point, but the
Neither do
US
I.
is.
They're too bogged down in
Yeah.
Ukraine at this point. Like, and they've got too many
Yeah.
faster targets they want to go for in Europe before like, the Baltics are under greater threat from Russia right now
Yeah.
than,
Far
yeah.
greater. It's not even
Yeah, not
comparable.
even in the same
Um,
wheelhouse.
no. Our greatest threat is the US. And if you think of a military confrontation between Canada and the US and how that would go, our military structure is going to be wiped
Well,
out
that's
within the
why I
first
think
five
your
days.
comment about drones is prescient, because look how well the drone modality has worked for Iran. Like I
Exactly.
I think there are a lot of lessons that Canada could be learning from Iran right now about how to
Yeah.
structure a military defense and also to ensure continuity of government. Because, like, I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest, if the Canadian cabinet had been wiped out, like like Khamenei and his inner circle were wiped out, I highly doubt that there would have been the ability to coordinate continued government response, and yet Iran was able to do so. They're clearly they're authoritarian for sure, but they're not a dictatorship because they clearly have a system bigger than one person or their inner circle.
Yeah. And it's a decentralized form of government, especially when they go into a warfare scenario. Their military structure, the structure of the IRGC itself, is quite interesting, and it does very much insulate Iran from these kind of assassination attacks that Israel and the U.S. love to engage in. Iran has scripted its defense by watching how the U.S. operates around the world,
But rather than
and has
insulate Canada's military, we've endeavored to only integrate the United States military further. And I made a lot of people mad with a tweet recently where I said that I feel a significant number of Canadian soldiers would welcome U.S. annexation and see themselves as a U.S. expeditionary force. And like the main people taking offense were former service members who very much do not feel that way. And I know these people and I respect them. But the unfortunate reality is there are a lot of fucking crazy people in the Canadian military. Like, for one, the group who just tried to do an armed insurrection near Quebec City. Like, even though that was a few months ago and we all forgot, apparently.
We know our military has these problems. Like, we there's been stories month after month after month about white supremacy issues in the military, with far right organizers getting involved in the military for the training. Like, we know this happens. It's not a secret. I think that tweet was largely correct. Like, I do think our military would largely act in that sense. And that's why I think something like a drone program or more of a focus on guerrilla warfare would just turn more dividends. It's low cost and anyone can do it. Like, that's why Iran is seeing so much success right now, is anyone can launch an FPV unmanned aerial drone. Anyone can do that.
And they can perform maneuvers that a plane with a human inside simply cannot, because of there are maneuvers that would kill a human pilot because of the G-forces, but a drone, which is just robotic parts, it doesn't suffer from that same constraint. Like, and you can also drones are an order of magnitude cheaper, and you can the fact that, like, they managed to get an F-35, Iran, in this conflict, I mean, it tells you maybe those fifth-generation stealth fighters aren't all they're cracked up to be, compared to a drone modality.
They've shot down F-35s, they've shot down F-15s, they've shot down A-10s.
They took out an electronic warfare jet. Which
it took out the Stratotanker.
Yeah, honestly, and like one of the funniest things is that Iran reverse engineered a lot of their drone technology from a captured United States Reaper drone. And I remember Obama, because this happened way back during his tenure, he was like, "Hey, can you please give that back?" And Iran was like, "No." And here we are now.
Yeah, at the precipice of the end of the world.
I don't think we're on the precipice of the end of the world yet. For one, Iran could win.
Yeah. No, Iran is winning. I think they will win.
Yeah.
This is the exact type of war that the U.S. fails at miserably.
Well, because the only modality of war the U.S. has left is essentially being raiders. Like, they
overwhelming force.
They roam in, they drop bombs and launch missiles from mobile platforms, and then once they've extracted some form of tribute, they leave. It's what they've done with Venezuela. With Greenland, it may or may not have happened.
It may still happen.
Yeah, but you get the general idea. It's like the ground troops are not important because they aren't there to occupy. They're just there to kill people mindlessly until you give them money. They're the mob demanding protection money.
Do you think they actually go after Karg?
After who? Oh, the Karg Island.
Karg Island.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Because it sounds like the insane option, right?
Right. It does, but like, we have to see how stupid are the United States and Israel, because the war is mainly hurting them, so we'll see how much more of a tolerance for pain they have before they decide to fucking give up.
Yeah, like, it sounds crazy, but so did starting a war with Iran. So has pretty much everything else the Trump administration has done. Like, I have a feeling they're going to really need to get their nose bloodied before they maybe take a step back. And it feels like they're either going to do the Karg Island thing, or they're going to try and build a ramp near Isfahan and try to dig up the nuclear material somehow. Or a Delta Force raid that's going to take a week.
The third option is that either the United States or Israel is crazy enough to just use a nuclear bomb on Iran. And
yeah, that too.
I think that's the only way in which the United States could claim a Pyrrhic victory, because, and I mean, I'm more worried about Israel doing that because they have the nuclear arsenal to do it, and they are much less they have a much more ideological goal of they don't want friendly Iran, they just want no Iran.
Yeah.
Like, the
They
U.S. would
want
like
a
a
failed
friendly
state.
puppet regime. That's why they put in the Shah before. But Israel may be more comfortable with one that no longer even exists and is a radioactive wasteland. And this does scare me a fair bit because, like, no one can give me a definitive reason they won't resort to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's...
No, I
yeah.
can't give you a definitive reason they won't resort to it. They want Iran to be Syria. That's what they want. They want another failed state on their border that they can just dictate to its populace and have the IDF go in every so often if they need to and fight defenseless people.
Oh,
Like that's the goal of Israel.
it's
And you're
like,
right. The U.S. wants an ally.
to be fair...
We'll see which side wins out.
And to be fair to Syria, it does feel like the United States has actually tried to create a functional puppet government there. It's just that Israel has no interest in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Al-Shara would honestly be a rather friendly neighbor for Israel if they could stop provoking Syrians, which will surely cause more terrorism in the future. But that's
I mean,
another story.
he opened his
another
border
time.
for them to invade Lebanon.
Like, yeah. Do we ever have a happy time talking about the Middle East?
Not when Israel's involved. No.
Well, I mean, Israel's always involved. Even go further, like go to like Azerbaijan and Armenia, and Israel's involved. Like, so,
yeah,
like it's just enough. But absent that, I mean, this has been a pretty fun episode. We've talked about horrible war, stripping the rights of indigenous people, and socialist self-sabotage. Overall, things are looking up and up for the world.
Yeah, we're heading into our golden century.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the Chinese century is on its way. Don't worry.
Yeah, it'll be here any minute now.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very fun episode. Matt, thank you for joining us again for our 50th. It has been fun, and we will hopefully see you again soon. This has been Matt Kercher, everybody, a commentator and Green Party member in BC. And that'll do it for this week's episode. Thank you for listening, everybody. You can catch the next episode, the same place you caught this one, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you next Sunday. Cheers. This is the end of the show. Bye.